perhaps there are comments or questions.
Oh, yes, right.
And there's also a lot of activity in tweeting and emails from around the world. So perhaps we can start with you.
Okay, my name is Angel. As I introduced myself earlier.
Tu nombre es Ángel. Ya ha conocido a
I live in the
Federico.
Bronx, not too far from Yankee Stadium. From the new stadium, which is $1.5 billion. And there's a lot of material things coming into my neighborhood, but this is invaluable. You know, I thank you. I thank you. Also, there was one point about, not many points about the negative and the positive. I come
Sobre lo positivo y lo negativo.
and I came here to Bethesda because I have a sister who is.
Question, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I came, not so close. I came to Bethesda. She lives in North Bethesda, and she has a very lucrative job in financial trading and whatnot, investment. But she's kind of stressed, and I can see that negativity affecting her in ways that are not healthy.
Está hablando de su hermana,
Can you repeat
está
the
teniendo
question?
algunos problemas.
Can you repeat the question so we all can hear?
Is the mic
Can
being
you
heard?
repeat the question? You
He's
repeat.
speaking about his sister.
No, there's not a question. I'm just commenting on the negative and positive that I found so interesting in this. Okay.
Hablando de lo positivo y lo negativo, que puede ser interesante.
So-
But if you have a question, please, if you have a lot of
Okay,
people.
no, I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bien.
We have a question from one of our Twitter followers here.
Una
We have
pregunta
it.
a través de Twitter.
The question is, where do the Maya live today?
¿Dónde viven los mayas hoy en día?
Bueno, en las comunidades, en diferentes, hay más de 22 grupos étnicos en Guatemala. Quechí, Quiché, Cachiqueles, son más de 22. En las comunidades especialmente.
Federico's mentioning that there are some 22 Mayan languages, ethnic peoples that belong to the Maya. The Maya are spread primarily through Guatemala, Yucatan, a little bit into Honduras as well, and Belize.
Good morning. First, I'd like to say thank you for being here and sharing the wisdom of the Maya with us.
Y la cultura maya con nosotros.
And when you completed your presentation this morning, you shared with us that the journey with UNESCO and the journey that this wisdom is for all of humanity. So the question I'm left asking is, how can we be a bridge for the families that are hurting, specifically so many here in the North America, to help rebuild the structure of our families with the wisdom of the ancient Maya for the years to come and the generations to follow?
Thank you. Pregunta que, como dijiste al final de la charla, esto es un regalo para la humanidad, cultura maya. Ella pregunta que en este país, en Norteamérica, hay muchas familias que están pasando por grandes dolores y problemas, y quisiera saber cómo se puede aplicar los valores mayas, la cultura maya, para hacer como un puente a otras poblaciones más allá.
Muy bien. tiene un proceso.
Everything has a process.
Thank you.
Sí.
Everything has a process. Wow. Including microphones.
Todo tiene un proceso
Tú dices.
y se puede buscar esa relación, esa comunicación
And we have to search for that communication,
con los
that
pueblos que
relationship.
tienen interés en que se haga esa conexión, ese vínculo y transmitir y dejar ese legado de nuestra cultura, compartir con otras culturas.
Our people have that interest as well in being able to share this world with other cultures.
Porque hay muchos factores que impiden actualmente esa relación.
Because many peoples, many factors are looking for this relationship.
Pero se puede,
It can be done
porque ahí está la medicina.
because our medicine is there.
Este país es tan grande, pero que también es tan chiquito en cuanto a su corazón y su mente.
But even big countries like this one can be very small mentally and in their heart.
¿Qué significa Bak'tun? I asked, what does Bak'tun mean?
El significado para mí, dentro de nuestro idioma, dentro del pueblo Quechí, en el idioma Quechí, significa Bak. Significa Bak, quiere decir amarrar. Amarrar.
In my language, it signifies bak, which is to tie something together.
Y aparece también el Hau, es la mente, 4 Hau, 4 señores, 4 cabezas, 4 mentes, y el Kumpu. En Quechí, Kumpu quiere decir Kutku, quiere decir planificado, se encuentra planificado. Mente con 4 mentes, planificado.
He mentions the actual glyph that denotes the Bak'tun, the moment of Bak'tun, contains 4 fours as well. So the 4 has a sense of completeness to it, as well as a tying together. Y lo último que dijiste, ¿qué más al final?
Planificado.
And also
finalizado, terminado.
something finished, something well planned that finishes.
Yeah, it's all right.
So, okay. En el día 21 de diciembre de este año,
On the 21st of December this year,
ajá, va a terminar una parte del calendario.
a part of the calendar comes to an end.
Ajá. ¿Y qué pasa? ¿Qué sucede después? Hay mucho miedo.
There's a lot of fear, there's a sense of wonderment, what's going to happen next.
Pues no se debe de tener miedo.
One shouldn't be afraid.
A lo que debemos de tenerle miedo es a nuestros problemas
But we
personales,
really have to fear our own personal problems,
problemas de familia.
problems in the families.
Y es cierto que finaliza un periodo.
It's true that a period is coming to an end.
Entramos en otra transición, entramos en otro periodo.
We're entering another transition, another period.
También se relaciona con el fin de nuestros problemas. Pero hay que reflexionar de que a nivel mundial, a nivel de los gobiernos, a nivel de los países, se debe de hacer cambios. Y si algo puede suceder, tampoco no se va a decir, hoy se acaba el mundo. Entonces no se puede decir así. Pero se puede decir, se puede ver en el análisis que hicieron muchos abuelos y abuelas que existen problemas con nosotros y que nosotros somos verdaderamente lo que estamos destruyendo, lo que está a nuestros alrededores, como por ejemplo la tierra, como por ejemplo la familia,
The time The time of change that is described in Bak'tun, it does bring up the fact that there are many problems that human beings have in families, individually, and it is a moment to reflect on how to resolve those problems, and it gives a moment of that kind of energy to consult ourselves to see how we can use our minds and our hearts to improve things. In the world there are many large governments and many large policies and many conflicts, and so it's very difficult to address those large types of problems, but it starts with the individual, starts with the family, trying to do something for ourselves. And so the moment of change in this Bak'tun, to the Maya people, there is that extra sense of, in that time, it's a good moment to reflect, to create change.
Why in particular is there a period? I mean, what is the difference between this old period and the new period that's coming to?
Repeat the question.
Pregunto otra vez que he's asking what the shift is, what the meaning might be between one period and the next. What significance there is. ¿Qué significado pudiera haber entre un periodo que termina y otro que comienza? ¿Hay algún análisis sobre eso?
Bueno, constantemente hay cambio. Constantemente hay cambio. Este mismo día va a finalizar a medianoche. Y todo lo que se hace, todo lo que hacemos durante este periodo del día, puede ser muy bien, puede ser que no hemos actuado bien, puede ser que nuestro proyecto salió muy mal, pero hay oportunidad de cambiar, de rehacer. Y entonces entra otro periodo, mañana.
It's like a day, like today. There are changes going on today. We're moving through the time of this day. We may do things today that tomorrow we will regret, that will need to change, that will influence what we do today, will influence how we can live tomorrow. So there's always change, small periods of change from one day to the next, and changes in the longer context of time.
Y así sucesivamente.
My daughter does mission work in Guatemala outside of Antigua, and
Su hija hace trabajo de misiones por Antigua.
and one thing that she has mentioned, and I've noticed there also, is the discrimination against the Mayans. And I'm wondering, is it just because of the cultural differences, or I know my daughter's mentioned the dark skin, and it's harder for them to get employment and jobs. So
Y su hija le reporta a ella que nota gran discriminación contra el pueblo maya. Ella quisiera saber cuál es la causa de esa discriminación, si es el color de la piel, si es la cultura, que está causando tanta discriminación dentro de ese mismo pueblo.
Bueno, como dije anteriormente, hemos tenido procesos muy dolorosos, pueblo maya, pueblo indígena.
As I mentioned earlier, we've undergone some very, very painful processes our people have.
Y prácticamente nosotros no tenemos ningún poder, ni económico, ni político.
And so we're without power practically as a people, economically or politically.
Recientemente hemos terminado una guerra de 36 años.
Recently we finished a war, a civil war in our country of 36 years,
Un conflicto total
a total conflict.
que nosotros no lo causamos, no lo
We didn't
provocamos.
provoke it, we didn't cause that conflict.
Pero nosotros nos ven como minoritarios y discriminados.
they see us as a minority that can be discriminated
por el color de la piel,
because
porque
of the color of
hablamos
the
su
skin,
idioma,
because we speak our languages,
porque, porque somos pobres,
because we're poor,
porque no sabemos leer ni escribir,
because
somos
we don't read or
analfabetos.
write, we are ostensibly illiterate,
Y una serie de factores. Entonces, mientras que el movimiento global está penetrando muy fuertemente, entonces los que tienen el poder económico y político son los que dominan.
the people with the power, economic and political power dominate, and the global movements are penetrating our peoples substantially.
Y influye mucho lo que es la televisión, las películas,
There's a lot of influence from television and movies.
hay mucha corrupción,
There's a lot of corruption in the country.
hay diferentes cambios y hay un cambio muy fuerte que es la violencia.
And the worst thing we suffer, which is a high degree of violence.
Los jóvenes que están en pandillas, los jóvenes que están buscando otra manera de vida, también perjudica.
So this lack of value is really influencing our young people. They're looking to belong to something, so they belong to gangs now and respond in a violent way to a violent society.
Entonces necesitamos encontrar una vía. Necesitamos, nosotros tenemos nuestra cultura, hay una gran riqueza.
We have a great richness of culture, so we must find our own way.
Sin embargo, nos faltan otros elementos como para poder caminar por nuestros propios medios.
But we're missing some elements yet that would allow us to walk our own road.
Si no lo hacemos, si no caminamos por nuestros propios medios, nos van a estar jalando siempre los que tienen ese poder.
So if we don't find our own way of walking, the people who have those kinds of powers will always be pulling us their own way.
Entonces queremos tener una economía propia,
We're looking for our own economy.
queremos fortalecer nuestra propia cultura,
We want to fortify our own
y que
culture,
sea reconocido
that it be recognized,
para disminuir un poco lo que usted dice.
to try to diminish this kind of prejudice that we suffer. Other question?
We have two questions.
Hay dos preguntas. There's two
from-
questions.
One is from Guatemala.
One from Guatemala.
And the question that this person has is, what is the single most important thing that the Mayan calendar reveals?
That the Mayan calendar
Reveals.
reveals. ¿Qué pregunta? The question is, what is the single most important thing that the Mayan calendar reveals? ¿Qué es lo que, si tú pudieras concentrar una cosa, la más importante que el calendario revela, enseña? ¿Qué es lo que, si tuvieras un punto principal que expresar de lo que el calendario revela o lo que el calendario enseña?
Bueno, un punto específico, por ejemplo, el Sikkim,
To go to one specific point, Shkin,
que significa pájaro,
which means bird,
es el símbolo.
is a symbol.
Es movimiento,
It signifies movement.
es como se espabila,
It's how something is stimulated,
y al mismo tiempo, dentro de su movimiento,
and within those movements,
provoca el aire,
it provokes air and wind,
y se traslada inmediatamente de un lugar a otro
and go and always moving from one place to the other,
en búsqueda de un bienestar de su hogar, de su familia.
The bird, observing the bird, always moving from one place to another, looking for something to bring back to the family, to the young.
Y es muy afortunado, entonces, porque tiene unas energías, tiene un imán.
And it's a very lucky animal because it has like a magnet type of energy.
En el negocio,
And as a symbol for the human being that
en
it
el
has that symbol,
comercio,
it provides power in business, in commerce.
ese es lo específico
That's very
de un
specific.
día.
Of
Y así
one day.
sucesivamente, los 20 días
But all 20 days
tienen sus características,
has its characteristics
su signo
and
y
its
su
symbol
fortaleza.
and its strength. So each day personality of each of the days relates to the character, the conditions of an animal, a particular animal, or several animals sometimes. And it carries its own energy, its own meaning, its own personality, and that's part of the imprints on the child that is born, and it's also used to explain what's going on, to be able to correspond with those types of energies.
Básicamente lo que usted está diciendo es de que simple y sencillamente tenemos que aplicar cada uno de los nahuales a nuestra vida para poder vivir como el calendario maya lo dice. ¿Correcto?
She says we each have to, we can apply those values of the calendar days to our own life in order to improve our lives.
Perfectamente, pero se debe de para mantener el balance, se debe de conocer ese nahual.
But to sustain the
Cada
balance,
nahual.
you have to deepen your knowledge of that particular nahual.
Por ejemplo, si su nahual es un tigre,
If your nahual is a tiger,
quiere decir que
jaguar,
usted es muy fuerte y puede inmediatamente entrar en algún problema con
it means
alguien.
that you're very strong and you have to watch that you can easily be in a fight, be in a problem with someone.
De repente usted es un pájaro, es un perro.
Or you may be a Z, which is the dog or the canine.
También hay que balancear.
That's
Porque
also
puede
needs
ser que sea
to be
usted una escritora,
analyzed to
o
balance.
puede ser que usted sea muy
It
envidiosa,
can influence you to be a writer, it can
inmediatamente,
influence you
y el
to be
perro
perhaps an
es
envious person.
muy bravo en ese sentido.
And the dog, the canine, is very strong in that sense.
Pero el perro es muy amable, es muy dócil,
But the dog is also very gentle, can be very docile. So there's that part of the character.
es muy dócil, entonces se entra en una comunicación.
So there has to be
Y ahí se
a
encuentra
communication
esa-
between those
esa-
two
ese equilibrio.
traits of personality, so you find the balance between the strength that can attack and the loyalty and the docile nature that just wants to please.
Hay otro signo dentro del calendario donde también entra la locura.
There's a
Es
symbol,
muy-
for instance,
muy
one of the
mente,
days where insanity can come in, craziness
Fuerte.
can reflect
no
itself.
tiene equilibrio y de
It's
repente
very difficult to
sale
find
corriendo
balance in that day,
y hace
equilibrium.
cualquier disparate.
So that person has to really watch it, has to be, as a child, very well instructed in order to be able to control and correspond behaviors that use that energy in a positive way and not in a way that can destroy your life.
Cada uno de nosotros, como dije, tiene su destino.
Each one of us has our
Pero
own
tenemos que
destiny.
encontrar. Muchas
So we
veces
have to
estamos
find
por allá
it.
y no nos gusta y nos vamos para allá, cambiamos cada semana, cada mes nuestras actividades porque no hemos encontrado
Often when we
ese
find
equilibrio.
ourselves indecisive, going from one thing to another, changing our thinking too often, it means we haven't found that equilibrium, we haven't found that balance that carries it in one path. Every one of the 20 days is rich, redolent with meaning, personality, and the particular energies, whether it's monkey, whether it's canine, whether it's jaguar. The reading is of those elements, those animal elements, to see what the personality of that animal is and how that can explain part of the human being's behavior. The day you're born fixes cosmically that personality for yourself. You were born in the personality of that day, so that influence is going to be very strong in you, and positive and negative. It has to be balanced. You have to understand it. So you go to people like Don Rodrigo that can deepen that understanding in yourself as you go.
I'm over here. I have a question this time. I have at home a copy of the Aztec Codex, Nutal.
Tiene en su casa copia del Codex Aztec.
A book to read. I was wondering if there is a connection between the Dresden Codex and that one. Because you're talking about jaguars and similar animals, and they're all over in Aztec.
Quizá hay conexión entre el calendario azteca y el maya.
Sí, hay conexión. Lo que cambia son la pronunciación, la escritura. Con los aztecas, con los olmecas, con los mayas.
There's a similarity in all those traditions.
Depende del periodo en que va sucediendo.
The names of the days change, the pronunciation changes, but it's a very similar pattern in all those systems, and they all emerge from all the Olmec culture in any case.
Se tiene una actividad de pueblo, pero sí hay un vínculo. Por ejemplo, podemos hablar el Quechí, se puede hacer algo, se puede estructurar un libro en inglés, pero podemos hacer los libros, pero la misma comunicación, la misma...
In the same way that Quechua language and English can be transferred and one can translate from one to the other.
And also,
Same with those systems.
if I could give an anecdote for a question that I heard earlier. I believe someone in the back asked about what we could do for the Sandy victims. In New York just this week.
Excuse me, sir, let's go to another question,
Okay.
please.
I have a quick question here. It follows up to what you just said.
Una pregunta
Question
de Twitter.
is, how does leap years play into the Mayan calendar?
I'll answer. The leap year is a Gregorian calendar context. I mean the February date. It does not.
I was wondering if you could speak more to 13, the significance of 13,
Significado de 13.
on any level that you care to.
Cualquier nivel que considere aplicar un poco más el significado de 13.
Muy bien.
Very well.
El número 13 representan nuestras articulaciones.
As I mentioned earlier, the number 13 at one level represents the different joints in the body, all 13 joints in the body, 13 articulations.
Por ejemplo, el hombro,
Shoulder,
tenemos dos,
we have 2,
la cadera,
hips,
la rodilla,
knees,
el tobillo
the ankles,
y el cuello.
and the neck.
Sumamos de eso, nos sale.
If you look at all the articulations, there's 6 that make 12 from the body, the extremities, and then the neck would be 13.
Esos números, esas articulaciones, nosotros estamos divididos en dos partes.
We're divided in two, left and right, that's our duality.
Donde mi izquierda no tiene la misma fuerza que mi derecha.
Perhaps my left doesn't have the strength of my right.
Lo mismo con mi pierna.
Perhaps my leg's the same way.
Y los números se encuentran, si el 2, pues por lo menos mi rodilla están bien, es el número 2.
The knees would be number 2.
Pero puede ser que el número 1, bien.
But it could be that one of our articulations, for instance, in the neck might not be well.
Entonces necesito ese fortalecimiento, necesito esas energías para
That
mi
would
cuello,
call
para mi
for
hombro
looking for energies for that particular articulation.
y en todos los otros extremidades.
And that's true for all the extremities.
Pero tenemos también no solamente las articulaciones,
So it doesn't only
sino que
relate to the
también la
body's
sangre,
articulations,
la
but we also
sangre,
have blood,
la parte interior de nosotros.
our internal organs.
Y si nosotros entendemos bien ese de los números de nuestras articulaciones, entonces principian el movimiento, principia la señal.
So we're also, if we understand the signals of the body, the blood, how it signals in different parts of the body, that there's knowledge in that as well.
Pero para eso hay que tener mucho conocimiento, mucha
But
escuela.
that goes into a
porque
more profound
recuerda
level of knowledge
movimientos
of this.
en el codo, en los párpados, en la cabeza, en el cuello, en la izquierda,
The
en el
different
lado
pieces
derecho.
of the body can project to you different messages, can tell you how you are balanced or out of balance.
Y también está vinculado con el sueño.
And also related to dreams. Dreams are a
Entonces,
big part of
13
it.
o los números tienen bastante significado. Uno de esos es lo que estamos hablando.
So all these articulations, all these numbers have their own meaning, and as they are reflected in the body, in signals from the blood in the body, or in signals in dreams, or how they appear in dreams, you may see two birds, or two canine, or like that. The number, the reflection of the animal, and the articulation that it has in your body, the correspondence of this knowledge, and what the fire tells you as you're speaking to the fire is what gives you an analysis of what this person is suffering and how you can correct it to move toward balance.
We have another question from Twitter.
Otra pregunta por Twitter.
December 21 is also the winter solstice. How does that relate to Bak'tun 13?
Otra
And
pregunta
how
sobre
will the
el
Mayan-
solsticio, diciembre 21 es también un solsticio.
And
Entonces,
how
¿eso
will,
tiene alguna relación con este cambio de Bak'tun?
and how will the Mayan mark December 21?
Y los mayas mismos en su propio pueblo, ¿cómo marcarán ese día del 21?
Bueno, se marca como cualquier día, pero siempre este cambio se le da mucha importancia y se hacen ceremonias.
At one level is from one day to the next. It's just a change of the day. But the concentration that has occurred is also calls for a special ceremony.
Es el cambio en la persona, es el cambio en el niño, que el niño, por ejemplo, tiene 14, que esa transición del niño en la persona, y se agradece pues de que va caminando bien.
So he's speaking to the changes that a young person might experience from one day to the next in order to see the trajectory. And so it's the same. And on that level, it's a change that people will interpret according to the individuals and the families as they need to.
Y lo mismo sucede con el solsticio, siempre es un agradecimiento del movimiento de los ángeles.
With the solstice, it's also indicative or calls for a thanksgiving for the movement that implies, the cosmic movement that it also implies.
Puede tener efectos en la mujer o en el hombre, siempre y cuando la mujer no esté embarazada.
The solstice, for instance, can have an influence on a man and a woman, and it's easier to detect if a woman is not pregnant.
Pero siempre hay protección porque se avisa, se sabe, existe una comunicación de los
And that's also a good time to evoke special protection to the grandparents, the grandmothers and grandfathers for the woman that's pregnant.
I just have a last question.
We don't have to-
Before you mentioned that the only way to live better is by really understanding the calendar. I would say for people like us, how will I be able to get that knowledge?
¿Cómo pudiera una persona acá obtener ese tipo de conocimiento?
Because we have no access to a lot of that information.
No tenemos
What would you
acceso a ese
recommend?
tipo de información que usted recomendaría. So you have to go to Guatemala.
Let's go.
May I have your address?
Dirección que-
Me da su dirección.
Es un poco difícil, verdaderamente.
It is difficult to access this type of information. Even I would add that for them, it's a daily family situation, and we talked a lot about the training of a daykeeper. And it's not a school, it's not even one particular teacher. The foundation of it, I would say, elementary school through high school of the teaching of a daykeeper is within the family, the mother, the grandmother, grandfather, grandmother, because the whole family follows that. And then after that kind of just filling up of that knowledge, if you have a special gift for it, or some aspect of curing, then they'll find a way to put you in contact with that individual that has more knowledge about that, for training, for more ceremonies, because you learn in the practice. You learn this as you do the ceremonies, as you deal with different kinds of problems. There's huge numbers of issues and problems individuals and families have. So every time you do a ceremony relating to that problem, that's a body of work that you as a trainee begin to accumulate. You know, what happens when a woman acts this way, or when a husband acts this way, or when this kind of disease enters the family, or violence. And so the many things that can happen within a family, within an individual, the training is in the practice for a daykeeper. He will do, or she will do a ceremony about that with this particular family, hearing the problems, thinking through the solutions, thinking through how those solutions may be reflected in the fire, in the ceremony, in the cosmos, and how you read the day, and all of that cumulative knowledge from that ceremony. Once you do 1,000 of these, and you're dealt with many problems, you are a person of some knowledge about how to advise people in your community about how to move forward. So it's that cumulative knowledge that they have. You know, it's very practical. I really need to say that because there's so much hype about power and spiritual power and energies that enter a room, and that's ghost busting. It really, it's the base of this. There's a spirituality, no doubt about it, but the basis of it is practical family knowledge, how to be better human beings, how to be healthier human beings. That's really the crux of it, and that's why it sustains, because people are not doing hocus pocus.
Right.
People are doing something that really does benefit their lives by following these ways.
Pues no es igual que leer un libro, no es igual que leer un libro, porque se necesita mucha disciplina, se necesita una comunicación constante.
It's not the same as reading a book, because the discipline really calls for a constant communication.
Es como su esposo o la pareja. Si no se mantiene la comunicación, si no se mantiene ese vínculo, pues no se entiende la pareja.
It's like a couple, a man and a woman, if they don't sustain good communication constantly as a couple, the relationship is just not going to work.
Pero hay diálogo y se puede ver dónde está la falla.
So there has to be a dialogue so we can find what went wrong.
Se corrige
You correct?
y se sigue.
And
Ese es
then-
el
and then you
aprendizaje, así se
continue.
va aprendiendo. se va
That's how
aprendiendo.
you learn to be resolving little problems, big problems.
Are we still taking questions? We have
I think
another
so.
question.
Yeah, it's fine.
This
Go ahead.
one appears to be from London.
Una pregunta desde Londres.
The question is there, is the new calendar, is it made, is it already, can it be seen? This is the end of the 5,000-year cycle, the next
Está
5,000
cambiando
years.
el Bak'tun, pero el nuevo calendario, el nuevo ciclo del calendario ya está hecho, eso sigue.
Bueno, ese sigue, continúa. Y el Bak'tun nos deja un mensaje de cambio.
And Bak'tun gives us a message of change, and a change from one era to the next, and of course that era is going to continue. And we're looking again, there are at least these two calendars, a long count which involves the Bak'tuns, and this wheel of 13 days and 20 days, and the number 1 to 13, and that goes to the 260-day wheel that's always continuing. And so we know that today is 11 each, and so every person that deals with this calendar throughout Mesoamerica today is 11 inch. They know what day it is, and what day it is tomorrow, and the next day, and it's never ended.
Never.
And the conquest, all the violence, all the discrimination we spoke about has never been able to kill that reality. And there's literally hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, that follow it and use it in their lives. Yeah. So with that, we thank everyone. Perhaps you have
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.